Today is 30th of September, and it is pre-Independence Day for celebration for our great country, Nigeria. So we're celebrating Nigeria in advance against tomorrow. And there's so much to be grateful for in this country. One, we're grateful that so far we have no war. As a country, we've gone through a lot. And what we've gone through in many countries would have erupted into war, but we are still here today without war. Economically, we can say that we have nosedive to the, to the negative. However, we can still eat. And I tell you, a lot of people are still building. A lot of people are still making their millions, even in the midst of the difficulties happening in Nigeria now. And in the health sector, yes, COVID-19 came, but if you look at Africa and the world, Nigeria is not as hit as it has, occurred in other countries. When I look at education, yes, our educational system is not as vibrant as it used to be, but it is hopeful. So we are thanking God for His mercies over Nigeria, and we look forward to a better Nigeria.
All right, that is important. So we're going to be talking about that better Nigeria. That is what all of us have signed for. We need a better country, a better Nigeria. Of course, that better Nigeria will come through our effort, through our sweat. All of us, we're going to sweat to make sure that better Nigeria become a reality. All right, today we're going to be talking about education, of course, from the point of view of education. We have talked about, look at Nigeria at 61 from the point of view of security. We're looking at it from food production, maybe later today. We're looking at it from youth participation. We're looking at it from different angles. So with you, we are looking at it from education, from our educational system, program, and all of it. So looking at Nigeria that was just born, I'm talking of 61 years ago, 1960. What kind of education did we have in the country? What kind of program did we have in terms of education and all that?
Okay, I would say that shortly after our independence, our educational system was doing very well. We had a lot of missionary schools around then, and the government, were very focused in ensuring, especially in Lagos State, in giving free education to all citizens. I am a beneficiary of free education system in Lagos. I was born in Lagos and grew up in Lagos. When I was younger, my primary school, my secondary school was all free. And textbooks were given for free, math sets, everything, all stationaries free. And our teachers then were quite educated. When I even got into the university, my first year, we had children from private schools. They couldn't still beat us that came from the public schools. So this tells us that the standard in the public school many years ago was very, very high. But today, what we have is a lot of public schools have gone into decline. The educational system is poor because teachers are not well paid and proper monitoring. I would say leadership of the educational sector has not been as it should be, and this has led to the rise of the private sector, private schools. Now, the private schools, yes, it's still very good with good concepts. They bring the latest educational technology or best practice into play. However, how many Nigerians can actually afford very good private schools? So what has happened is that we have a lot of people still in the poverty or illiterate strata, and we have the elite having the children attend the best of education in the country. And what this has caused is, one, a lot of youth are going to be unemployed without basic education. And I fear this might lead to greater crisis, which has already started. Today we have banditry. It is out of having youth that are not educated They come out, don't know what to do. They get into banditry, kidnapping, all kinds of crime. So you see, the crime rate has increased in the country because the educational system has failed these children, this youth. Many parents, as I said earlier, can't afford quality education because of the decline of quality public schools. So that is the difference we have in yesteryears and today. Today we have a lot of private schools. How many can afford very good private schools? Then we have even the other private schools, the lower private schools that a lot of parents can afford. And the educational quality there is nothing to write home about because they also have to look at the business in education. So they take school set holders as teachers. And these people are not trained teachers. These people can't really deliver the curriculum. So we now have a lot of youth out there giving, can I say, half-baked education because of the situation we found ourselves as a country.
All right. Now, taking it from you that that you even have a very good experience when you were going to school in the period after independence in Nigeria. Now, I want to remain a little bit in our nascent period now when we were just born as a country, 1960, 1961, 1962, in those period. Now, those people that actually fought for the Nigerian independence, some of these people went abroad and studied, which means that they understand the value of education. So as we got independence, now we are free as a nation. How much effort was put into our educational program? Do we even have our own educational program, or do we simply copy from the West? That is my question, because of course that will lead to another thing that I'm going to ask you after this, please.
Nigeria as a country, we follow the British pattern of education. However, we have our own Nigerian curriculum. And the methodology of delivering this is so different from the British one. We are more into the root learning than the critical thinking, the hands-on activity, and the problem-solving kind of education, which would have helped us more. So what we have today, we have a Nigerian curriculum designed by us. And I think, for me, I think it's a very deliberate one to give, our colonial masters did this deliberately, giving us an education where we can only read and write and not be able to solve problems and not be able to think critically and not be able to be innovative. And this has been the major problem of what has happened to us as a nation, where you have graduates that can think, graduates that can't become innovative, and it has destroyed our nation because we were only told to read and write, and that is what we are doing. And that is where it has landed us, in a country where we don't plan ahead, in a country where anything happens, anything is accepted, no acceptable standards maintained by everyone. I would say, because of this method of system of education that was handed down to us, it has made most Nigerians, they're not patriotic. You will hardly hear Nigerians say, God bless Nigeria, because it is not in the curriculum. I teach both the Nigerian, British, and also I'm very familiar with the American curriculum. Embedded in this curriculum is patriotism, love for your country. They teach it. Now, what do we have here? What do they hand down to us? We are not proud of who we are as a people. We prefer whatever is Western and is outside the country. We cannot solve problems. If you can't solve problems, you can't be a good leader. We have serious leadership issues, and this has, has caused a network of issues and has landed us in this trap that we're in. We look forward, as I said, we were talking about the better Nigeria. We look forward to coming out of this web of trouble or a web of issues that the educational system has created.
Thank you very much for that. Share all those issues, they easily degenerate into many other things that are happening in the country. And this is evident in the way that Nigerians behave today, because we are product of our education. There is no way you can just suddenly become something that you are not. No, you are going to have to educate yourself or follow a pattern that will be given to you. This is why education is very important. And now I'm still trying to sort of hook up to this line that I'm trailing, this early period of the Nigerian educational system, and of course, going forward, okay, even after our civil war and all that, because of course, as a country, we must have a trajectory. That is why we need leader. Everybody cannot know what is going on, but at least as leader, they must know where the country is going. And education is usually the way through which this happens. Now, would you say that Nigerians, beginning from 1960, had an idea of where they were going, by that planting it in the educational system, so that, okay, we need certain doctors in this country, we need certain amount of engineering in this country, we need to build houses, because of course, as we were living the colonial era, a lot of infrastructure were not really there in Nigeria, to be frank, because the infrastructure that were developed for only few people, for the few Westerners that were running the system, and those who they needed to manage the system. So as we are beginning to get free, we know that we need to provide for the whole of the country, not just for few people. And for us to be able to do this, of course, we needed to train people. And this can only happen through education. So the question is, did the Nigerian leaders had an idea of what they wanted from their own educational system?
Fantastic question you asked. From the onset, the idea of education was to tame the minds of Nigerians, to be good followers. The idea, as I said earlier, was not to make us plan or develop our country. The idea was just to read and write, as I said earlier. Now, what this has caused is we are not taught to plan. How many Nigerians plan? We just wake up and whatever tomorrow or today brings, we take. How many Nigerians plan as an individual, talk less of as a family, talk less of as a state or a community? We all know in the Western world, the next 100 years have been planned for. I think usually we say the next 30 years, the next 20 years. As a state, as a country, we have no plan. And if we had a plan, if we were focused dreaming from the start, and that's what quality education gives you. Focus, vision, plan. These were not embedded in the kind of education we had. So we did not plan for our education. If you look at Singapore, anytime I talk about education, I always like using Singapore as an example. They were even in the worst states than Nigeria as a country. But they had this leader that came and structured the timetable, their educational system, put in critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills embedded in their curriculum and customize it to meet their needs today. Singapore is about the third best economies in the world. So education is key in all. What kind of education what kind of education have we had from the onset? That is a golden question. And as I said, the education, the kind of education handed down to us was absolutely intentional. We don't have a plan as a nation. Even as we speak, economically, we don't have a plan. Educational-wise, we don't have a plan. We have a lot of undergraduates out there that want to get into the university, but they can't because they definitely university, they have the capacity and They have limited numbers they can take. So what plans? Do we have entrepreneurship plans for them? And yes, we're talking about entrepreneurship as a country, but do we have the willpower to do what is right? We call entrepreneurship education. We have entrepreneurship even in the curriculum, but how is it taught? Is it making the youth self-reliant? So a lot of things is wrong. So I will say, as you've said in Acts 1, educational plan, we don't have one. There is none. Plan as a country, we don't have one. And that is why we are where we are today. Lagos State, I would say, is one of the outstanding states so far. They seem to be the only state, at least that I've been following, maybe because I grew up there and I lived there all my life, that seem to have a plan. I have traveled the whole of Nigeria. And a lot of states don't have any plan. I've even tried helping some state governments in having a plan, a goal of helping their youth. Because if we don't train them now, there's no way we can have youth that can help support that economy in years to come. And they bring in politics into education. So the problem we have is we have brought in politics and self-interest into our educational plan in this country. And it's because as individuals, we are very self-centered. We're not thinking of the future of the country. We're not thinking of the future of even our own children. We think if we send them to the best school, send them abroad, that's it. One day they will come back into this country, as I always say. And from the airport, they can be robbed or anything can happen to them because they have not had the interest of this country at heart. So going forward, I will say, the people in government now should remove politics out of education and do the needful. Get hands that can deliver and help this country rise again in the educational sector, and let us begin to rebuild. With time, we will get there. So in answer to your questions, we do not have a plan, and we have not been planning as a nation. And presently, there's no plan, but there can be plan if we are willing to have a plan and we'll have the willpower to execute it.
Thank you for that, dear Regina. You see, it is very important that we look at the onset. Of course, it's true that we just started from 1960, which is 61 years ago when Nigeria got independence. Of course, we could have actually started before that because some of the problems started even before that, but at least we need to have some date in mind. So that is a good period. If a child was born in 1960, by now, that is 61 years old. 61 years old person, at least you have gotten enough experience in life. How long do you expect to live? Of course, in the affair of nation, in nationhood, we are still very young. We are still almost a baby in terms of how people usually civilize and grow and all that. I understand that too. I'm not trying to just do a direct comparison between Nigeria and maybe some other country, maybe like the United States and all that. But of course, that does not justify where we are today. We ought to have been able to do more in every respect of our life, from education to the military, to the policing, to infrastructure, to in many respects. Of course, education play a pivotal role in this area. And you were talking about planning. And of course, the planning is evident. Look at what happened during the COVID-19 situation. The Nigerian government basically appeared as if, of course, I know it's an emergency. That is also why we have a sector that is managing emergency. Because you cannot just, as a country, we cannot just exist thinking that if something strange happen, then we are going to call somebody to help us. It doesn't work like that. You are going to imagine that tomorrow there is going to be an invasion of this country from the sea. Are we ready for it? I know that there is no war now, but what if by tomorrow people invade us from the air? Are we ready for it? What if by tomorrow some bad people poison the Nigerian water? Are we having alternative? The thing is, we need to have different kind of plans. We need to prepare for option A, option B, option C, option D. If you don't have this one on the table, you are just a baby. Because if anything happens, you are going to cry to everybody, please help me. For how long are we going to continue to cry for help? All right. Now, I want to ask another question, always within this area of planning, educational program, and all that, because that is where we are going to get it right. We cannot produce a qualified leader by just thinking that it will happen. We are going to construct it from the day the children come to this world till the day they become adult. We are going to really construct them like a project. This is not going to happen by chance. So who was supposed to plan the Nigerian education? Who was supposed to be in charge of who was supposed to see the future in terms of the Nigerian educational program beginning from the early period?
Leadership is key. For us to be able to plan in the educational sector, we must first of all have a leader that understands the importance of education. If we don't have that leadership that understands the purpose of what education can do, that it can lead to the development of each country, can build this country, nothing will be done. As we speak, ASU is threatening to go on strike again. And ASU is ever on strike because of still leadership. Our country, no planning, with ASU and trying to put things in place that can make even our university system work. We now come to those in the affairs of education in the country. As I said earlier, everything is highly politicized. As long as a country we don't uphold excellence, we don't get the good hands that can deliver the work, to do the work, things will continue to be this way. So even though you want to have a plan, the people at the end of the phase, do they know anything about education? Or do they know anything about, even if you don't know anything about education, do they know anything about project planning or project management, or how to plan all, or getting technocrats from here, put them together and say, okay, this is my plan, this is what I want, this is my vision. Put up something, a plan that can produce this vision. So one, we have to get the leadership right. A leader that understands the importance of education. Two, who is the Minister of Education? Does he know anything about education? Now we can say that the minister can come from any walk of life. Fantastic, I'm okay with that. But does he understand that in making his work easy, he needs to get technocrats or people, experts in the field. Experts in the field, they are not mediocrats, that actually knows what to do. It gets them to put up a plan for you. Does he have that in mind? Instead, when he wants to build a state, he gets his friends and his relations and those that have been standing by him, maybe politically, and put them into the committee. And these people know nothing. And the circle continues. See, the way we have to do things right for Nigeria to move. If we don't do things right, we'll still be speaking Nigeria will be better even in the next 1,000 years. Mediocrity must end. Let's get the people that can do the job, the people that knows the subject matter to lead the team. Even if you don't want them to lead the team, let them be part of the team and get whoever to lead. But anyone that wants to lead should be somebody that is visionary and has the interest of the nation at heart. So that is what I can say. Because if we don't have these key things, someone that loves Nigeria, an expert in the field, someone with the right leadership skills, leaving mediocrity out of it, forget it. There will be no plan. If you even look at the educational sector. I tell you, they gather every year, they come out with fantastic policies without even the plan to implement. If they bring out some of these policies, fantastic ideas. But when it comes to implementation, what happens? Because mediocrity has been at the peak of it or the base of it. So it can't fly, it can't move. So we need to get this right if we must go forward as a country. We really need to get this right.
Is it really possible that within Nigeria there are people that are actually qualified to do this job? It's just that they are
Yes.
not allowed to do the job, or it's just that we as a people, we don't have qualified people. So maybe we need to call the European to come and educate us. Where are we?
No, see, as a people, I told you we have experts amongst us. A lot of Nigerians are well read. When I say well read, especially those that travel out, read and have come back to the country. Nigerians are well read in the country and outside the country. But these people that knows what to do, are they given a chance? As I said earlier in this discussion, everything is being politicized. There should be there should be a balance. Yes, we have politics, we have those that have been loyal to you and brought you power. Again, to make things work, you also bring the technocrats. That's one thing I would say, one of the presidents we had, I think Obasanjo did right. He brought in the technocrats that knows what to do, and the economy moved. You see that communication moved at that time, even the economy of the country also progressed, and that was when we paid all our debts. And that was when we had the likes of Kunjawela, we had the likes of Aki Lee, this woman that the drug women died, and a lot of them all. So there should be a balance, between politics and people that knows what to do. There should be a balance there. So when you talk about experts, we have experts in this country. I will tell you that Nigerians are the most read blacks we have. I'm telling you, we are very educated people, but we don't have these experts in positions or position of authority where they can actually express themselves and fix this economy. And even those of us that have been in the field, when we go meet them, it's okay, for free, we want to help fix these things. They are not ready. I know how many governments I have been to. I work with them. They are not ready to move this country forward. They are not ready. So that is the situation we found ourselves. Experts are here. We are trying to make them, at minimal cost, move this country forward, especially in the educational space. But these people are not ready. Everything is highly politicized, and self-interest, is the order of the day. So that is the situation we found ourselves as a country.
All right, it's okay. Now, in Nigeria, when we started, we were not the 36 states that we have today. We started as regional government. I think that a bit of autonomy was there in the system then. Is there any time, looking at that time and this period that we have different states now that basically the state don't even have anything that they can do on their own? Everybody is looking at the federal government to dash out the money, then from there to dash out more to the local government. So we're basically running like a beggars. That is what the Nigerian system is. We are beggars. No, we need to beg the federal government to do everything for us. Whereas the states, as we have them, can actually have certain autonomy to do some of the things themselves, even in terms of revenue generation, and then pay tax to the federal government. And this way, the federal government can have lesser work to do and take care of the federal issues like defense. There are many things that the federal government really can do, but you can't do everything. You can't do everything. All right. If we look at the history of Nigeria, sorry, say something, please.
Yes, the federal government really can't do everything. But the sad situation is that most of the states are looking at the center, the federal government, to helping them do everything. Lagos State has been very distinguishing in its efforts, because I think at the time, for a long time, they were the government in power was always in the opposite side. It's now that we have APC and we now also have APC government. When we had the PDP, most of the governors, they came from the opposing party. And the states, there was a certain time that even the federal and the Lagos state government were not in alliance. And Lagos state government had to use their own funds. They generated funds from within the state and through that state. But how many states can really survive on their own? The thing is, they've always looked at the center. They've always looked at the center. However, there's so much of wealth in all the states, so much of wealth that if they look inside, they can actually generate enough for themselves. But the mentality, again, we talk about education. As I always say, education is not always when you're in school. Education is when you build your mind. That mindset of we can do it, let us physically look inside and generate revenue. It's not that, but some governments are doing it. Like recently now, we have some governments that they now have their own airlines trying to generate funds for themselves. I know that Akagona have it on air, and I think one of the eastern states too, starting that, and Cross River is having in Cali Air. So some of them are beginning to go back and look inside, they look inwards and see, but not all, but I think they're beginning to do that. And I think what the federal government can also do is align a bit of autonomy for the state governments so that they can be able to generate their own revenue, not send everything to the center, but maybe a smaller percentage to the center and use the greater bulk or percentage for their states and for the development of their states.
Can you give me some recommendations on how to fix the Nigerian educational system? Yes, we can get something out of that.
Okay, first of all, is to get experts in all the different educational levels. Experts in the early years education, experts in the primary, experts in the secondary, experts in the university. Put them together and see how the different just different levels of education can be taken care of. And most importantly, the colleges of education and faculty of education too, needs to be recalled. There should be an overhauling of that those sectors so that the teachers too can be well groomed, because they go back into the classrooms and they groom the majority of the youth that we have out there. So they need to kind of look inwards and see how to work on the faculty of educations and the school of education also. So the government should be focused. They should know that education is important. Mandela said it all, that education is a passport to, I can't really remember the quote, but it's
a passport to the future. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
In this 1 minute and 10 seconds thereabout, what kind of Nigeria would you want to leave for your children? Be very brief and be precise.
Okay, a Nigeria that is able to build the youth, is able to build the educational system, because that is the bane of development in the country. So I want to see a Nigeria where every facet of the educational system is working absolutely well.
Thank you very much for that, Regina. I really appreciate the time, and though it's a short time, but the information has been really very interesting. So thank you very much. I continue the celebration. We love Nigeria. This is our only country.
Yes, we have no other country but Nigeria. We love Nigeria. Thank you for the opportunity again. God bless you.